What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video slash devlog slash tutorial, whatever you want to call it, actually. So in this video, I'm gonna show how I create this dodge or roll ability, directional dodge or directional roll ability using the gameplay ability system. I'm not gonna show how to set up the whole gameplay ability system. There's already a video on the card on the top of the video or in the description below on how I set it up, set the whole thing up. If you want to do that, just jump back to that video, set up the whole thing, and then you can go back to this one. Also, there's another video of me creating a separate ability for the potion ability using the gameplay ability system. But on this one, I'm gonna create this dodge ability, which is intent to, uh, it's intent for combat system inside of the gameplay. Basically, if you're trying to, dodge someone else's hit, you're gonna use that ability quite a lot. It also consumes stamina, and it's a pretty simple one to set it up. So basically, first of all, you're gonna need to have the animations, and let me just show a demo of how it's gonna be the end result. Basically, I'm using the gamepad right now, so let me just pick it up like a basic set so I can have more uh, stats, so I can roll for longer. So it's gonna consume, I think it's 10 or 15. I don't remember how I set it up, but I need to check it out later. I'm gonna show in a few minutes. But basically, if you press the B button on the gamepad, which is basically the circle button on the PS5, it's gonna roll backwards because I don't have any input. So the default input is gonna be backwards. So if I'm just like hitting someone else and I don't have anything else to do, it's gonna roll backwards. So probably that's gonna be the most uh, used one. But if I'm walking around or pointing to someone else somewhere else, let me just wait until the stamina. I'm probably gonna need to raise up a little bit this stamina recovery. But basically, if I have enough stamina and I'm walking around anywhere else, or maybe I'm just hitting an enemy over here, I can just roll to whatever I'm trying to face. And if I'm not facing anything, it's gonna roll backwards. So first of all, you're gonna need the animations. And for these animations, I used a pack that Unreal gave us for free a couple months ago. I'm not sure if that's still available, but basically it was this pack over here. Let me just open it up. And it was this rolls and dodge animations. So I actually use only one or two animation, which was the backwards and the forward ones, but there is like dashes and dodges for lots of directions. So I just downloaded that animation basically, and I put it inside of the character. Let me just open that ability really quickly. Let me just find that animation. So as you can see, there's like lots of roll forward, or backward, or right, roll left. There's also diagonal rows. Those animations are also root motion, so they are actually moving around somewhere, but I activated the root motion on it. So basically, let me just go find this left root. So as you can see, I've activated these root motion. There we go. I enable root motion because otherwise it's actually gonna move it that way. So by enabling root motion, what I did basically was, okay, the animation is gonna sit still. It's gonna be like the character is not gonna move, but this whole animation, that this whole path that the animation was gonna flow, it's actually gonna be applied to my character. So the actual character, I forgot what is the component. It's the capsule component. So the actual capsule component is gonna move that in that direction of that animation by activating this. So and I created also a montage for it, and then well, that was pretty much it. So first of all, you're going to need the animation. Second of all, after setting up the whole ability system, this time I didn't create the if you want to create like on the order, you can create the cue and then the effect and then the ability. You can see like a video that how I did the potion ability. I'm gonna leave it a link in the description below. But basically for this one, since it's just a simple dodge that is gonna consume it as something, I haven't set it up in a queue just yet. Probably gonna set it up a queue or either a cue or a sound directly onto the montage or animation. So whenever he's rolling, probably gonna play a sound later. Right now it's not doing that, but just for the sake of this video or devlog, you can do that as well. But what I did then, I created a gameplay ability blueprint, which was that C++ class, which is gas ability. Oops, gas gameplay ability, which was that class. And inside of it, what I did basically was, as whenever I also set it up like a tag because this is my priority tag. So any other ability that has this tag called skill is going to be canceled when that ability is being casted because the roll is priority upon the any other ability. So unless it's being already casted or something like mid row, so if it's mid end or something like that, it's not gonna be canceled. But that's the way of doing it. Also, what I did then, I set it up the roll forward montage as part of it. But as you may saw on the melee attack, I created also for all my abilities on the melee attack. That was my first one. I created this custom onset anime montage. So this is a custom event that I created on C++ that allows me to change that montage as I need before actually activating or calling the ability. So in this sense, for the melee attack, what I'm gonna do later is I created this anime montage for the punch, which is basically montages without a weapon, with a sword. Probably gonna have different montages for dual blade, bow, and etc. Bow and arrow, and etc. But for this one, this same event, I'm gonna be using for the dodge ability. So what's the purpose of it basically? Well, the purpose of it is understand if I'm receiving any input. So if I'm receiving an input somewhere to, if I'm actually moving my character, then it's gonna roll into that moving direction. But if I'm not receiving any input, I'm still need to, roll to somewhere. And in that sense, I'm going to roll backwards because usually the character is going to be facing in front of the enemy. So if the player just presses the B button or any row button in the keyboard, it's going to be the space. So if the player presses the space, it would roll into the direction of the enemy, which is the opposite of what the dodge or the row ability is intended for, which is run away of the enemy or the attack. So basically what I did is I grabbed my character owner player, which is also a variable that I created in C++, which is nothing but the actual player character or the owner of the ability. I grabbed the character movement with it, and what I did then is I grabbed this get last input vector from it, which is basically if I am moving the analog stick to move the character somewhere, and if that's not moving to anywhere, then I'm gonna roll, like if that's moving to someone else, I'm gonna roll forward. But if that's not moving to someone else, which is like if it's not moving anywhere else, if it's just stopped, then I'm gonna roll backwards, and that's the idea. Also, I did this rotation is because if you don't rotate the character, probably it's gonna still work, but the animation is going to be a bit chunky because the animation is going to be facing somewhere and the capsule is going to be facing the other way. So you're probably going to have uh, some weird behavior. So I need to rotate my character to the same direction as my input. So basically what I did, I grab again my character, grab the rotation, which is the current rotation. I interpret that to the desired rotation, which is a function, and I'm going to explain a little bit later what that function actually does, and I interpret that into this speed. You can increase or decrease the speed as much as you can. You can test it out over there. What works best for you? For me, it worked the 720, and then I set the actual rotation based on it. So rotating backwards, I set the rotation to whatever is my um, capsule or my direction. If it's backwards, what's gonna do basically is, so if I press B, what's gonna do is it's gonna face nothing because I haven't input anything uh, there. But if I working on diagonal, for example, and I press B, you can see that my character is still from the diagonal option because I just rotate my character to that option. And then here as well, left ways, and etc. If you don't do that, probably if you rotate diagonally, your character is going to be ended up looking forward instead of instead of the direction that you actually row for, which is kind of odd. But sometimes that actually happens. So that's what I did that. So
Okay, and also this get desired rotation is a function that I created into blueprints to set the target, and it's doing nothing like in order to rotate the character to the proper position, and it's doing nothing but the gravity on our player again, grabbing the character moving last input vector, checking whether if it's going backwards or forward. And if it's not, if it's going backwards, basically it's just not going to rotate anything. It's just going to rotate to like that's not going to rotate backwards. It's not going to point the character to backwards. so it's going to stay in the same position. But if it's moving around to some position, either diagonally or or moving forward or etc., the character is going to end up looking at the direction that it rolled for. So that explains basically why if I rotate on diagonally, let me just pick it up a couple things in order to be able to rotate for longer periods. But basically, if I rotate now, moving forward, it stays looking forward, but if I rotate looking backwards, it stays backwards. It If I stay rotating forward, it stays looking forward, but if I press to rotate backwards, it's still going to look forward because it's not going to change the rotation of the character itself.
It's pretty simple, right? So grab the character or the owner of the ability, grab the last input vector, and see if I'm inputting something. And if I'm not inputting something, that means that I need to roll backwards. And if I am putting something, which means I am moving around, basically what I'm going to do is I am going to move my character forward and rotate my capsule accordingly. And I'm going to rotate that accordingly, regardless if it's moving forward or backwards, as you can see.
Okay, so basically what I'm going to do is I set the initial animation montage in case nothing like this works, so it's going to work forward. And I set the effect. I don't need to, but I specified that as a condition for my ability system, but it's not going to be used for anything right now, but basically. The input ID is the Dodge input, which is basically what I set it up on the input section, which is the space bar or the gamepad face button right, which is the circle on the PS5 or the B button on the Xbox One controller. And whoops, that's the simple attack, not this one. And the cost of that ability is actually my dodge stamina cost, which is a gameplay effect. So let's go to the gameplay effect right now. So I create a gameplay effect blueprint, which is this guess effect. And with that, I did just a simple thing, a simple change in it, which it was basically, it's an instant change. It's going to change the stamina. It's going to add minus 15, which means it's going to decrease 15 of my current stamina. So if I have 100 stamina, it's going to drop to 85. If I have 85, it's going to drop to 70, and so far, so good. And if it doesn't have enough stamina, it's just not going to call it. It's just not going to do anything. It's not going to require any tags or anything like that. It doesn't have any queues attached to it. Right now, at least, doesn't have any display queue. And that's pretty much simple. So that's how you would pretty much build a directional dodge system using the gameplay ability system. So it's a pretty simple task and a pretty trivial task as well. Just need to have an animation and control the rotation of your character. Inside of the actual ability, if I go to the gameplay ability, that variable over here, which is this owner player, is nothing more than this owner player variable over here that I actually set as the festival character, which is my character class. And inside of the CPP, I set it up this owner player. Let me just found it where I set it up. There we go. Right when I activate the ability, I set that owner player information with the actor info ownership. Also, another thing that I changed on the C++ class, which was a simple change as well, on the give abilities, instead of having like one variable per ability, I create this default abilities variable, which is just like a T array of the class U gameplay ability. And what I do basically is with that array, I just go through whatever is inside of the array and I provide that array. I give that ability to my character and at the begin play. And if I go to my character right now, instead of having to, let me just go to the default class, instead of having to create, like set it up like that melee ability, the potion ability as I had to set it before, which is a variables that I'm going to delete in a few, in the future code releases or something in my GitLab. Basically what I'm going to do is I can just set it up inside of this array, all the default abilities that I'm going to provide to my character. I can now delete those two variables because I'm not using them anymore. And that's pretty much about it. Hope you like it.